The power sweep was the play of the day in Chicago last Sunday. Despite efforts of man and machine, Soldier Field was a cross between Lake Titicaca and a Nantucket sleigh ride. All of this moisture made the Falcons and Bears scoring possibilities about as likely as a tax rate reduction. Nevertheless, after a few far misses and a couple of near misses like this one, the winless Falcons did manage to punch in with 10 points, 6 on a short run by Haskell Standback. But for the remainder of the day, the Chicago defense went after Falcon quarterback Steve Bartkowski like blue tick hounds after a big old coon. Number 60, Wally Chambers, contributed this sack to the Bears' total of 5 and their league-leading season total of 17. But while the Chicago defense was humming, the offense was hurting. This Bob Avellini to Brian Boschnagel hookup was the only bright spot in an otherwise dull and dolorous performance. Throughout the remainder of the long gray day, the combination of Atlanta's miserly defense and the Bears' mistake-making offense added up to the Falcons' first win of 76 and Chicago's first loss. Final score, Falcons 10, Bears nothing. Meanwhile, in Tampa Bay, there was another fumbler. And if O.J. Simpson doesn't pay his electric bill pretty soon, his power could stay shut off. O.J.'s line is known as the Electric Company, and whether planned or unplanned, they left the juice in the dark with a mere 39 yards on 20 attempts, the third poor performance in a row for O.J. But while the improving Bucks closed the roads, they couldn't shut down the airways as Joe Ferguson hit Reuben Gant for 1 score. The Bucks put 9 points up on 3 field goals, but Ferguson to number 81, Bob Chandler, iced the Bills' first win of the year, 14-9. It was fumbles everywhere last week. And in Los Angeles, Craig Morton's goal line fluff was costly. However, Morton did get the Giants off to a 10-0 lead on this pass to tight end Bob Tucker. But then, the Rams rolled on the power of number 22, John Cappelletti, who's having an excellent season. And this right end sweep finished the Giants 24-10. Meanwhile, down south of L.A., new Charger coach Egbert McDroppings was showing his team just what he expected of them. And the Chargers executed perfectly. But that was all in fun, for in reality, the new-look Chargers were devastating. Just ask the Cardinals about number 33, Donnie Woods. Woods' 13-yard run opened the scoring, but St. Louis came back to lead 10-6 on a pass from Jim Hart to J.V. Kane. But as they say of Margaret Mitchell's book, Gone with the Wind, that's all she wrote. Because in the second quarter, the Chargers blew in for 27 points and a runaway. Dan Fouts to Charlie Joyner was good for 30 yards and 6 points. Dan Fouts to injured Gary Garrison's replacement Dwight McDonald, number 89, was good for 44 yards and 6 points. When Fouts and McDonald connected again, the Cardinals didn't have a ghost of a chance. The usually big play birds from St. Lou were left standing with egg on their face, 43-24. The Chargers are 3-0 and have won more games than they did in all of '75. And as Egbert McDropping says, here's hopping. They can keep it up. Last week in Denver's Mile High Stadium, Cleveland quarterback Brian Sipe threw a significant touchdown pass to tight end Oscar Rohn. It was significant because it was the Browns' 8th touchdown pass of the season, which is one more than they could manage during all of 1975. But the surprisingly strong Denver Broncos would not allow Brian Sipe and the Browns any more joyous occasions at their expense. In fact, they held the Browns to an average of just 3 yards per play. And for the 14th consecutive game, they held their opponents to 17 points or less, while scoring or setting up almost as many themselves. Number 10, Denver quarterback Steve Ramsey completed only 10 passes in the game, but 2 of them were scoring passes. One to 9-year veteran Haven Moses, number 25, and the other to Larry Zonka's old buddy from Wyoming, Jim Kick, number 33. For the Broncos, the defense is scoring, the offense is scoring, and so are the special teams, whose most special member last week was second-year receiver returner Rick Upchurch, number 80. Returning a punt for a touchdown is quite an accomplishment. Last week, Rick Upchurch did it twice without even being touched. The Broncos are a happy bunch these days, and why not? Even without the retired Charlie Johnson and Floyd Little, Denver has scored 90 points in the last 2 games, and suddenly the future looks unexpectedly bright for the Broncos. In Dallas, Burt Jones and the high-scoring Colts did not have such an easy time of it. During the past year or so, Burt Jones has been one of the NFL's hottest quarterbacks. But last Sunday, the Dallas Cowboys found a way to cool him off, at least temporarily. But every time it seemed that the rifle could not fire another shot, back would come Burt, and the Colts would be at it again. Despite numerous injuries, Jones loves to challenge a defense directly, and this makes him doubly dangerous, as long as he remains reasonably healthy. Roger Staubach, on the other hand, has learned that it is easier to trick people than it is to run over them. Wide receiver Drew Pearson's pass to wide receiver Golden Richards was the first touchdown for Dallas on a day when the Cowboys had to come from behind 4 different times. And if you have to come from behind, these receivers are not a bad group to aim for. They are, in fact, 3 of the prime reasons that Roger Staubach is off to a faster start than any other NFL passer. Against Baltimore, Staubach completed 22 of 28 for 339 yards, including this one to perfectly positioned Billy Joe Dupree for the touchdown which put Dallas ahead 27-24. But Baltimore tied the score with just 28 seconds to play, and there were only 12 seconds left when Staubach launched this pass for his favorite clutch receiver, Drew Pearson. As number 1, place kicker Efren Herrera said later, Drew Pearson made it easy for me with that catch on the 14. I was ready to kick one 50 yards to win it. But either way, I'm happy. Before Detroit met Minnesota, Lion coach Rick Forzano predicted, we're going to have to fight for every inch we get. Unfortunately, the Lions missed a couple of inches in the fourth quarter when they had 4 chances on the Viking 1 and failed to score. The Vikings made the most of their opportunities. Quarterback Bob Lee handed it off to Chuck Foreman to give Minnesota a 10-3 lead late in the game. With 2 minutes to play, Greg Landry passed to Charlie Sanders for a touchdown. The game might have gone into overtime if the extra point had been successful. It was not, and the Lions were losers by a single point, 10-9. For Detroit, last Sunday was a day to forget, but for Hank Stram, it was one to remember. 2 years ago, Stram was fired as head coach of the Chiefs. Last Sunday, he returned to Kansas City with his new team, the New Orleans Saints. When Stram coached the Chiefs, he developed the moving pocket, the camouflage slot, and the tight end eye. But the Saints have no veterans like Len Dawson and Otis Taylor to operate his intricate formations. So, Stram has gone back to basics and constructed his offense on the hard running of rookies like bespectacled Chuck Muncie, number 42. Muncie was the Saints' first-round draft choice, and Tony Galbraith, number 34, was the second. This 74-yard gallop by Galbraith is the longest run of the year so far. Watch Chuck Muncie take down number 51 of the Chiefs to ensure clear sailing for Galbraith. One reason the Saints' running game was so effective was the inexperience of the Chiefs' young defense. Watch number 57, rookie middle linebacker Jimbo Elrod, hesitate before he locates the ball. This split-second delay is all the Saints need to eliminate him from the play and spring Galbraith for a gain. Passing as well as running contributed to the Saints' success. And this Bobby Scott to Henry Childs touchdown pass sealed up a victory for Stram's Saints. However, it would not be fair to suggest that the victory was an easy one. Throughout the first half, the Chiefs dominated the Saints primarily because of quarterback Mike Livingston and his favorite receiver on this day, Henry Marshall, number 89, a rookie from Missouri. Up until last Sunday, the Saints' pass defense was rated last in the NFC. Although their secondary was hardly pass-proof, they kept the clamps on Kansas City's receivers, conceding them short passes but denying them additional yardage by fierce gang tackling after the catch. The inspired Saints out-hit and out-hustled the favored Chiefs and scrambled for their first win of the season, 27-17. But above all, the game was Hank Stram's triumph, and nobody knew it better than his admiring players. The Saints have never had a winning season and probably won't have one in 1976 either. But with Stram as coach, losing will be more exciting than ever before. When it comes to player comfort, the Oakland Raiders spare no expense. If a guy's hot, he can get an Oakland Raider Deluxe sideline shower at any time. Raider players are entitled to as much stickum as their socks will support. Most teams use the gooey stuff. Raider players keep it on their socks. Their opponents, the Houston Oilers, well, somewhat higher. The big news on the Oakland sideline was that Ken Stabler was stuck there the entire game. But a big day by the Raider defense kept the Oilers out of the end zone on 2 separate first and goal situations and held Houston to 13 points. In Snake Stabler's place was number 15, Mike Ray. Raider head coach John Madden must have thought he was watching a right-handed snake, for just like Stabler, Ray was cool under pressure. He hissed his passes into the middle zones much like Stabler, and when it came time for points, he did exactly what the snake would do. Two touchdown passes to number 21, Cliff Branch, were just enough to edge the Oilers 14-13. While one young quarterback had his day, another one, only 2 years older, number 14, Ken Anderson, at 27 years of age, became the all-time efficiency rating leader, leading Cincinnati to a 28-7 win over the Packers. But more important for the Bengals, a running back, double Heisman winner Archie Griffin, number 45, had his best day as a pro. If Griffin realizes his potential, Anderson will be that much more effective. Indeed, the Bengals are all set at quarterback. The Packers are not. Lynn Dickey had one pass intercepted and returned 53 yards for a score by Ken Riley. And later, Tommy Casanova repeated Riley's act for 33 yards, scoring for the second straight week. For Dickey, it was a terrible day. Just 5 completions on 20 attempts, 5 times sacked, and 1 peculiar incompletion. But Dickey, a relatively new starting quarterback, need not be embarrassed. Pittsburgh's Terry Bradshaw, number 12, a 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, is a master of the backward-forward pass. This Bradshaw bobble was one of 8 Steeler fumbles. The turnovers kept the Patriots in the game early and later almost knocked Pittsburgh out when the new gun in New England, Steve Grogan, number 14, began to take advantage of the Steeler generosity. Grogan completed 13 passes for 257 yards and 2 touchdowns against a Steeler defense that is, surprisingly, the worst against the pass in the AFC. But Terry Bradshaw wasn't finished. Behind 30-20, Bradshaw nearly squirmed Pittsburgh off the hook. Though he finally went down, Bradshaw later rose to hit tight end Randy Grossman, cutting the deficit to 30-27 with nearly 3 minutes to go in the game. On their last drive of the game, Bradshaw passes to Frank Lewis and Lynn Swan, number 88, brought the Steelers close enough for a field goal try, but it would fail. Pittsburgh is now 1-2 and glum. The Patriots 2-1 and smiling. 2 weeks ago, the Dolphins fell 30-14. Last week, the Steelers 30-27. Are the Raiders to be surprising New England's next victim this week?